Hello, this is the intrepid traveler Paul London, and if you are looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, and probably a few other things, look no further than ImmortalSeats.com. ImmortalSeats.com, they are making memories one ticket at a time. You can also come visit TheWrestlingUniverse.com and listen to StrikeZone WXIN 90.7 for more info. But check out ImmortalSeats.com. I know there's plenty of other places to get your tickets, but this one's the best. Take it from me.
Immortal Mike Sorkin.
Well, thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely.
I'm coming back. I'm coming home. It's like that. Thank God at last, I'm coming home. You know what I mean? So May 9th, your friend Adam, he better lace up his boots. He thinks he's the one that's been the devious one. Well, I've been around for a long, long time, as Mick Jagger used to say, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what is it now? It's Spencer told me you live in Seattle, which I didn't know. So what does it feel like being a Patriots fan in Seattle after we just beat them at the last, 10 seconds of the game? I was actually at that game, so.
It's absolutely, I spend most of the time, in the winter I'm usually in Florida, but I'm doing a reality show. It's on National Geographic called The Legend McDodge, so I've been up here, and it's been wonderful to stick it up their butts. Because this is the Legion of Doom, and people are coming up to me at the gym I train at. Russell Wilson's the greatest quarterback of all time. Everybody's the greatest after 2 seasons, right? I mean, he is a very good athlete. The kid's got class. I mean, but he's not Tom Brady. Tom Brady, you guys are big sports fans, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
It comes down to really, they talk about Montana or Brady, right?
Yep, that's the debate.
Yep, that's the big debate.
Okay. Name me, except for Randy Moss, at the end of his career, did Tom Brady have Jerry Rice?
Nope.
The greatest of all time? Did he have T.O. when T.O. was hot in the 49ers?
Or John Taylor or Ricky Waters or any of the great athletes the Niners had in their run.
And he didn't have Roger Craig running behind him.
Yeah. Tom Rathman.
He had Corey Dillon for a couple of years. I mean, they've been there 6 times in 14 years. And up here, what kills me is they always say, well, all the passes completed were for short yardages. Well, you're the Legion of Doom. Shouldn't you get on him if he's completing them? And then you're up by 10 points in the fourth quarter and nobody scores on you. And an important part of that game that I don't think a lot of people understood, Brady marches them down the field, right? Mm-hmm. Seattle's 3-0. Brady marches them down the field. Seattle's 3-0. Brady moves the ball. Seattle's 3-0 again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They just dominated. He played, and again, I think, of course, if it worked, it would have been a great call. It was the worst call I've ever seen in football.
Oh.
You got Marshawn Lynch, and I listened to Richard Seymour. Someone said to Richard Seymour, well, he's only 1 for 5 on the 1 yard line, right? Richard Seymour said, I don't care if he was 1 for 50,000. You give it to the best running back since Jim Brown. You know what I mean?
Wow. I mean, that's a powerful statement. I don't know if I'd give him Jim Brown status, but either that or you have a running quarterback.
Let me interrupt you here.
Yeah.
He has the second largest game, except for Jim Brown.
Really?
Yeah, for the length of time he's played.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's certainly, I feel like he's a future Hall of Famer and one of the best running backs of this generation by far. I just feel like Jim Brown that's something special in the running back department. I do feel like Lynch is something special.
Yeah, he's the Babe Ruth. But what do you think that kid Butler must feel like, huh?
Oh, he feels like $1 million. He got the truck. He's at the Grammys. He's all over the place.
I'm very happy for him. I do work with the Patriots, and he's a great guy. So somebody like that, I'm very happy for. Absolutely.
Yeah, like Tom was gonna drive the truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he needs it.
as an athlete, Tom Brady is great, but I hate him. You know why? You know why?
Why's that?
Guys, take a look at him. He's perfect.
He's too perfect. Too perfect.
I mean, he makes $14 million. His wife makes $60 million.
Yeah.
Okay. He has children by 2 runway models. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I think when he the only place he has a losing record in football is in Miami. He probably goes to South Beach and bounces his balls off of some runway models and all. So I don't know if I could say that.
Yeah.
You guys can probably believe
Double
it.
entendre. We can work around it.
Yeah.
It's beach balls.
The guy is probably, for the longest time, the hardest working man in show business. You know what I mean? And it shows. It shows. They take casts off and make everybody stars there. Not stars, but they do the Patriot way.
And Kevin, he's really a great guy in person. I've been volunteering for Tom Brady's Best Buddies charity, which deals with autism. And off the field, he's a really great guy, down to earth. So yeah, we say, hey, he looks too perfect. Hey, maybe he did deflate balls. Who knows? But he's really a great guy, and I'm happy for his success. There's certain guys, no matter how many championships you win, but he's just a great guy overall. So,
and he's always been the same guy too. He hasn't really he gives back, and he does it quietly. He takes pay cuts to make his team better. He's just the epitome of a great teammate.
And the other thing, the deflated footballs, you don't think that's the first time that's happened, right?
Oh, God, no.
I mean, everybody now Jerry Rice is coming out and saying, I'm sorry I had stick 'em in his hands. In that era, everybody had stick 'em in his hands. You know what I mean? Fred Blutikoff, one time it was a famous play where the ball stuck to his helmet. You know what I mean? So what? I mean, for people to just knock Brady and knock the Patriots, and it isn't just up here. The Patriots and the Seahawks are the 2 most hated teams in the league.
Doesn't surprise me.
Hey, if you win, they will hate you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where I'm getting at. They're successful. They're winners. They follow the Patriot way. You don't hear about, except for Hernandez, you don't hear about Patriots getting busted and Brady and it's just a class run operation. I'm glad to hear that Brady's like that. I mean, he obviously is. I saw it. There was a little clip. I don't know if you guys saw it. Not Donnie Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg was on the field at the end, hugging Brady, saying, "You're the greatest of all time." You know what I mean? He is. He seems to be accessible too. And I've always enjoyed his interviews. It's like the yin and yang between him and Bill Belichick on the interviews. Belichick comes along like Captain Ahab, and and Brady comes along, like part of the Brady bunch, all smiles and teeth in there.
He's still that happy-go-lucky kid at heart. I've had a chance to meet him a few times. I work at Gillette Stadium. I'm an alcohol vendor over there, and I've had a chance to meet him a few times. And he really is a down-to-earth guy. And yeah, he's gritty when it comes on the field. He talks trash. He's like Favre and so many of the greats.
He's just into it,
But at the end of the day, he's a great human being. He gives back. He cares about his teammates. He cares about the community, and he comes from a great family. A lot of people don't know he was the younger brother of three sisters, and he actually wasn't even the athlete of the bunch. He was kind of the runt of the bunch growing up. So to rise up and do what he did, he split time in Michigan, and to be now this great Hall of Fame quarterback, you got to give it to him, man. Hard work pays off.
He tells me all the time that he's a horrible athlete.
and not just football. Do you remember he got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays as a catcher?
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that. Wow.
I caught as a baseball player. It's the hardest, it's the tool of ignorance. It's the hardest position to be. You're the quarterback of the baseball team, so it must have done him some good. Yeah, he was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays.
Now,
he must have been pretty good to get drafted, like Russell Wilson did.
Oh yeah, what a story!
I'm going to say one thing. I gotta give my hats off to Russell Sherman, okay? Because did you see his face when they went from winning to losing? You know,
Yes.
that great shot
Can't
of
miss
him?
that.
Infamous meme.
He's actually the first one to
Congratulate
congratulate Brady. Yeah, shake his hand.
Yeah, and I thought that was class.
Very
because
classy.
The year before when he beat Brady, he got into Brady's face a little.
Yep.
But I thought that was class. And the kid comes from Compton. The kid,
Went to Harvard.
yeah. I mean, he's dresses immaculate. Up here, he has many charities. He gives back to the community. You know, and when these guys are making this kind of money, I think they should. And you know, he talked about he didn't. Everybody says, well, he got a football scholarship because he went to Compton, but he was almost a 4.0 student, and he just had a child. He's talking about he wants his child to succeed and to be an academic, you know, rather than sports. And I give my, you know, it was. I've seen. This is how old I am. I've seen every Super Bowl. And that, I think, was the best. Now, if the Patriots that beat the Giants in the first go-around, that might have been the best, yeah.
It was incredible, and certainly you have a lot of football knowledge, and I think we could have you on as a regular football columnist, Kevin, with some of the knowledge you're dropping on us.
And I'm better than baseball. Let me ask you guys this. Who's the only guy ever to pinch hit for Ted Williams and Kyle Yastrzemski?
Who?
Williams was pinch hit because he fouled the ball off. Yastrzemski was in a slump because when he came up, he couldn't hit left-handers. It's Carroll Hardy, who played in the Rose Bowl.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
I actually misspoke, too, about Richard Sherman. He actually went to Stanford.
Stanford.
I said Harvard.
Yeah.
Stanford, yep.
Yeah.
But we actually have some viewers that commented on a post we put up about, you know, questions for you. One of the people actually said, what wrestler in WCW was the toughest to deal with when you were the booker?
The toughest to deal with was probably Hogan. I mean, he had complete creative control, and he saw things differently than a lot of people. But I got along with most of the guys because I took myself out of the middle. When you bring two people into the room, one of them's going to like you, one of them's going to hate you, right? Mm-hmm. So I came up with the idea, we'll say, if it was Buff and Too Cold, I would say to them, hey, Buff, I'd like to do Too Cold a favor now. It isn't me telling them what I want. It's me asking for a favor for somebody else. And as long as I gave them where I was going with them later, they usually were, you know, they would at least accept it. Maybe they wouldn't be happy with it, but they would accept it. And then it's kind of hard to say, no, I'm not going to do it when you ask for a favor.
Yeah. So.
And the thing is, which I've talked about wrestling forever.
Yeah.
Did any of us ever throw 50 touchdown passes? Did any of us ever do hit for the Triple Crown? Did anybody ever, have a season like the Yastrzemski did in '67? Anybody hit 400 or 300? You know, I mean,
yeah.
It's just you're only as good as the guy that makes you. That's all it is.
I mean, it's a back and forth, and I think for me, for being a lifelong wrestling fan, Kevin, I mean, that's the art, and when wrestling is done right, and I don't know if you follow the product nowadays or not.
Yeah, I do.
When done right, I mean, you look at NXT last night, what an incredible show. And, when done right, it can be so organic, but when forced and overproduced, it can just be sometimes almost draggy to watch. And what's your thoughts on the current state of the business? I mean, what we see on Raw on a three hour basis, and you helped be a part of 3 Hour Nitros, so you know a little bit about the 3 hour shows, and then something like NXT last night.
Okay, 3 hours is impossible. It's impossible.
I agree. 2
hours you can do. I was reading now the average movie is right at 2 minutes or less because of our attention span, okay? Now, I'm going to ask you guys who are very big sports fans, okay?
Yep.
The bench coach, the bullpen catcher, the first base coach, the third base coach, the coach for the manager for the baseball team, the general manager, were they involved in baseball their whole life? Yes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they do is, and they get scouts that are involved in baseball their whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
WWF front office, except for Stephanie and Hunter, have no wrestling background. They're writers.
Yeah, it's true.
So how would you write unless you knew who I was? How do you write about me?
This is where we blame, I think, Vince McMahon, because he's all about Hollywood, and Triple H wants to bring it back to wrestling. I completely agree with you. I hate the whole idea of these Hollywood writers. They know nothing about the business. They're killing it.
And having 3 hours to fill, it was like Kevin
long.
involved with Nitro. They'd say they made Nitro a third hour. What was it 1997, 98? They made it.
Right.
And I've heard a lot of people say on record that Booker T and many others who were there, that at that point, that's what kind of killed momentum, because it was overkill. And then they added Thunder, and it's just kind of overkill.
And that's what's going to happen to Vince. And the other thing is they make every match that night. Where back in the day, you knew what was going to be for the following week.
Yeah.
Or at least you knew some of them. Everything, and they come out and talk for 30 minutes. We turned on the Super Bowl the other day when it started, we'll say at 3:30. And the kickoff wasn't until 3:35. I made a run down the store to get some little beer or something, you know what I mean? Or hot dogs or whatever we were having. I mean, you gotta you don't go to a prize fight. When Allie fought Frazier, I'm going back in thousands of years, when Allie fought Frazier was the biggest thing of all times. You don't open up the press conference with a 30-minute tirade without Allie and Frazier being there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're so far off the mark. Now, NXT, right?
Yes.
You want to solve this problem real easy? Raw is 2 hours, NXT is a single, and have those kids push those other guys to the max because they're hungry.
They are.
And all of a sudden, the ratings are going to switch from Raw to NXT.
I already have.
It's time for competition, right? If you get no competition, and I'm not disrespecting any of these guys. They're better than any of us in my era. They're bigger, stronger, faster. But the thing is, in my era, wrestling was jazz. There is lip syncing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about with the art form of it, and I feel like with the overproduction and the 3-hour Raws and this, everything's for TV, and you every spot is just overly planned out. It just robs the business of the art. And you look at NXT, and it's done simple, and 1 hour show builds to a 2 hour show every couple of months, but usually 1 hour show. It leaves you wanting more, and that's kind of to me what I've thought of it. And not just business, but entertainment, you leave them wanting more. And when you have to sit through a 3-hour Raw and it's saturated 35-minute promos, and you're seeing sometimes Daniel Bryan 3-4 times in the night, it's oversaturation.
Yeah, it needs to go back. I was going to say, it's got to be... Oh, go ahead, Kevin. Oh.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the reason why NFL is so successful is there's only one game a week, and everybody's so excited. And when wrestling used to have Raw, or even Nitro, even if it was 3 hours, but it's the only time...
You looked forward to Mondays.
You looked forward to a specific day, and this is why it was so successful. But MMA, wrestling now, it's overdone. There's way too many shows, so you lose that excitement, So that's what it comes down to.
And, it's just that they have... The other thing is, when you hear them cheer for people, and the camera's on everybody, and no one's screaming, the pipe didn't sound, sucks. It's like a bad sitcom with people laughing. MMA is getting twisted. Punk, Del Rio, God bless them. I hope they do very well. But they're trying to blur the lines. But they're not blurring the lines because for the blur the lines, WWE has to start going back in wrestling rather than having stunt doubles. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and there's a guy from New England who they've really gimmicked up, and I'm a really fan of Sandow. And it's getting over though.
Yeah, I actually loved Sandow when he first came out with the robe and stuff. You know what I mean?
That was excellent.
I thought to get that kid over, that if he gotten involved in some kind of feud, this is when Dolph was a heel, who I absolutely think is wonderful, but they don't give him a push. Or the Tyson Kid,
Oh, yeah.
His partner, how do you pronounce it?
Cesaro.
Yeah. Imagine if when he wrestled Sandow, because he looks like a throwback, right?
Yeah, he does.
Imagine if one of those guys went in the truck and flipped the switch where Sandow's matches were in black and white. First of all, you get the kid over in 3 weeks because everybody would say, stop banging your TV that hasn't followed the angle. What's wrong with my TV?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they would say, oh, some punk is doing this, and you'd have a legitimate match without screaming, without yelling. And the other night, I watched the match. How many guys are you using 3 hours? 10? How many times was they out there? And the other thing was, I never saw a finish.
Yeah, everything's a dusty finish. Everything's Big Show running down, or this authority member running down. Guys,
let me just run this by you. We watched the Super Bowl. We're all big fans, right?
Yeah.
What if the ball after Marshawn didn't make it was put up, and all of a sudden a Seahawk or a Patriot ran across the field and stole the football, and they came on and said, you kind of got to tune in next week to see the end of the game.
Yeah.
We would have shit all over it.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been good.
That's a great point.
It wouldn't have been good at all.
Yeah, they're afraid to have finishes. People want to see winners and losers.
Yes.
I mean, there was a thing with when we did night shows. Sometimes we would throw such a left-handed curve. We'd have a guy that was what they call enhancement, and he would go over guys. I remember going over Scott Hall. People were stunned. It wasn't to draw money, but it was to draw ratings and to show people, like in football, on any given Sunday, anything could happen. You have to make this, work, in my mind, you have to make it a sport-oriented business, not an entertainment business. And I think Hunter really does want to make this a sports-oriented business. Because, NXT is his baby.
Kevin, we actually have another viewer / listener who had a question as well. He was wondering your take on the Dungeon of Doom influencing gimmick wrestlers like those in companies like Chikara.
Well, here's the thing. The Dungeon of Doom, first of all, I wrestled pretty seriously until the Dungeon of Doom. The Dungeon of Doom was designed to make Hogan relax and go along with the program. Hogan was used to beating up cartoon characters. Below him was nothing but young guys that worked their asses off, and I had Sting, and I had the Road Warriors, and I had the Steiners, more believability than Hulk. So Hulk was used to wrestling these cartoon characters. I knew when he was the one that made me the booker. I knew that I had to placate his ego because I was going to turn him heel. I knew I was going to turn him heel the day I got the job. He slept at my house the night he turned heel because everybody was against it. And he was coming in again, Nash and Hall and Kidd were coming in who were cool heels. He would have been buried as a babyface.
Yes.
So that's the Dungeon of Doom was to make Hogan relax, and trust me. It was not the greatest. The guys worked their asses off. We had the greatest speaker of all times, King Curtis, but it wasn't designed for anything else but to getting Hulk over better, because you got to remember, he just came off an injury, and he just came off that TV series where he was about 60 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, great question, great answer. Certainly a few other questions here. Obviously, you will be working Brandon Locke live March 7th. It's a no DQ match, live Boston Pro Marathon. Your thoughts? I've seen this guy wrestle live. He's a young stud. He's a very good competitor. And what are your thoughts on him going into this match?
I've watched a lot of him. I'm very, very impressed. This kid should be working for the WWE. This kid has all the moves. He has the body. He has the aggression. The only thing is, sometimes, it's like in the Garden of Eden, when Eve said to Adam, let's eat the apple. Sometimes you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it can change history. And I think him with Adam's trying to pass him off an apple. Do me a favor, don't eat it. Let me get to Adam by myself.
Yeah. And a few more questions here. What was your experiences like dealing with the late Brian Pillman, Kevin? Any thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand this. Not only did Wrestling lose a great performer, and I lost a great friend.
Yeah.
The wrestling business lost an unbelievable wrestling mind. I think wrestling, if Brian had stayed in the WWE, wrestling there would be different than it is now, because he would have been able to have, Hunter would have been able to have an ally that saw what he sees. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He would have been, people, what's funny is some people say, oh, he went too far. They talk about the gun incident with Austin, right?
Yeah.
We're still talking about 15 years.
Yeah, 15, 20 years later.
So, yeah, it wasn't too far. And for people to say they're like Brian Pillman, they don't know what they're talking about. I'll tell you a story Brian told me. It was the greatest angle I ever heard. Brian, played for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he had sideline passes, right? He was there with the team. Before halftime on the third quarter, he wanted to run down to the goal post with a huge chains and locks and chain himself to the goal post and locks when he was the loose cannon. Now, how would they have shot that without having to put the camera on them? You know what I mean? Would they have to suspend the game? What would they do? Because they'd have to go down and shoot him. Now, if they're going to cut the locks off of them, right, they got to show why they go into so many commercials, right? He would have been a national figure. He would have been a national figure before going to WWE, and he would have been headlines in every sports page in the United States.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I think we have a few more questions before we wrap it up. Jay, go ahead.
No.
I wanted to ask you, Kevin, what was it like taking on Brian Lee in the Singapore Spike match when you were part of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling?
I want to hear this one.
Well, I was lucky because I worked in Japan, and Jimmy Cornette was a dear friend of mine, and I would, in between tours, Jimmy would bring me up there. Now, Brian Lee, to me, is a guy, it's one of those things that you're either at the right place or not, or something happens. Brian was a great performer, worked his ass off. I enjoyed the match. He gave. I take this as a legit thing, and I gave, and he gave back, and I think we gave the people what they wanted to see. But I always thought Brian should have made it bigger than he did.
Yeah. I can say the same thing about Brian Pillman. The two of them.
Yeah, both of them.
And Jay, great question there. Thoughts real quick. I'm going to throw a few names your way. Paul Wright, The Big Show. Your thoughts?
I started Paul. I mean, he's a great, great athlete. I think he's starting to work out lately. Have you noticed the difference in the last, 6 months?
I do think he slimmed down a tad, yes.
Yeah, I think his body, if Paul had, how can you go wrong? Paul gives finishes. He took that great tackle from Roman the other night, and I think it was excellent.
Absolutely. One more name I'm going to throw your way, Bill Goldberg.
Okay. Bill Goldberg, I created Bill. I beat Bill the first time ever I ever had him on TV with Mongo McMichaels. He had red shoes, red shirt, tights on, and I said, "Oh my God, did I make the biggest mistake of all?" I pulled him off for TV for 8 weeks. He went from Bill Goldberg to Goldberg. I gave him, if you look at his outfit, right, that he wore, it's the Mike Tyson outfit.
Yep.
The short black boots and the short black tights. Where Mike had short black boxing tights. And he came out with no jacket, no thing. He was just a kick-ass. And he was a phenomenon. He was the biggest phenomenon I ever saw in the history of the time when I was in the business.
All right. And Jay, I had one last question.
One last question for you, Kevin. I noticed that you actually made a surprise appearance in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA, as the officiator in the first ever Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. Tell us a little bit about that and how that was.
Well, it was deplorable. I went there because I was going to referee two of my friends, Raven, who I wanted to pass the torch to, and the Sandman. I went out twice and cut interviews, but the satellite went bad. By the time I went out the third time, the people had seen me, you know what I mean? It was very, very, very badly produced.
As TNA has kind of had problems in the past, too, we've noticed,
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example. I'm on National Geographic on The Legend of Mick Dodge, and he's the number one show, and that is a reality show based upon us being out in the woods.
Yes.
And they almost draw what TNA draws. So
wow.
People that say that TNA are going to jump, no, they're going to maybe do it well over the seas, but they will not be anything in this country.
Yeah, I feel like in England they do okay. They have the little reality show there. That's how they brought in Rockstar Spud. But in the States, they hit their peak, I feel, in 09, 010. After they actually brought in Hogan, I feel like it kind of things just... I'm not trying to blame Hogan here, but I just feel like things kind of fell apart after him and Bischoff came in.
Casual wrestling and then
be the alternative.
So,
when they were focused on being all the alternative, and they were for a while. That was the mission statement, be the alternative. They were very entertaining to watch. When they started to try to be WWE light, that's when there is an issue. Now, you spoke about the reality show that's on National Geographic, correct, Kevin?
Yes.
And when can we see the show?
Mick Dodge. What?
And what day of the week or what time is the show on? So
it's on Tuesday, and I believe East Coast time. It's 9 to 9:30.
All right,
they play a reality. Rerun at 8. No, it's 9. They play a rerun at 8, and then the new one at 9.
You heard it over here, folks. Check out Kevin Sullivan and his reality show Tuesday nights on the National Geographic.
And, of course, the only chance to see Kevin Sullivan live in the near future coming up March 7th, taking on Brandon Locke. Big ups to Boston Pro Marathon, Spencer George, everybody involved in that production. Kevin, cannot wait to see it, and I'm sure it's going to be a great match and really exemplary of a legendary, iconic career. And really, I feel like we could sit here and do this another hour. It's been so much fun interviewing you, and thank you so much for calling in. Would love to do it again sometime.
I would love to do it again, guys, and let's give a shout-out to Spence because he does this thing for the marathon people.
Yes.
So, Spencer, good job, brother.
Yeah, great
Boston
job.
strong.
That's
Boston
right.
strong.
Boston strong, Kevin. That's right. That is the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan. Thank you very much for joining us. What a huge episode of the Strike Zone it's been. We got about 13 minutes left. I know we got your guy from ICW. You want to get in real quick? Is he on the line?
I just want to plug.